My name is Robert Thompson, Bobby to everyone who knows me, and I'm 38 years old. 3 months ago, I attended my wife's law school graduation party thinking I was celebrating the culmination of our shared dream. Instead, I was served divorce papers in front of 200 guests, including my 8-year-old twin daughters. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how I ended up standing in the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton, holding divorce papers while my wife smiled at me like she'd just won her first case, you need to know how we got there. It was May 15, 2024. Jessica had graduated from Harvard Law School that morning, and I'd never been prouder. I'd sat in the auditorium with our daughters, Emma and Lily, watching my wife walk across that stage in her cap and gown. 4 years of sacrifice, struggle, and hardship had led to this moment. "Daddy, why are you crying?" Emma had whispered during the ceremony. "Sometimes people cry when they're happy, sweetheart," I'd told her, wiping my eyes. "I'm just proud of Mommy." If only I'd known those would be the last happy tears I'd shed. The graduation party was Jessica's idea. Or rather, her study group's idea. Marcus Chin, her study partner, who'd become increasingly present in our lives, had suggested they throw a joint celebration at the Ritz. His family had money, old tech money from Silicon Valley, and he'd insisted on covering the venue. "You've done enough, Bobby," Jessica had said when I offered to help pay. "Let Marcus handle this. You've carried us for 4 years. Time to let others contribute." I should have heard the dismissal in her tone. The way she said, "You've done enough," like I was a contractor who'd finished a job, not her husband who'd sacrificed everything for her dream. The ballroom was packed with Jessica's classmates, their families, and professors. I stood out like a work boot at a black tie gala. My calloused hands and sun-weathered face marked me as different from the soft-handed crowd discussing their children's clerkships and job offers at white shoe firms. "You must be so proud," an older woman said to me, mistaking me for hired help before Jessica reluctantly introduced me as her husband. "I am," I said, not mentioning the second mortgage on our house, the overtime shifts, or the nights I'd fallen asleep at the kitchen table still in my work clothes while Jessica studied in the comfort of our bedroom. The party was in full swing when Jessica clinked her champagne glass. The room quieted, and she smiled that brilliant smile that had captured my heart 12 years ago. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice carrying the new confidence law school had given her. "This journey has been transformative in more ways than one. I've discovered who I really am and what I really want." She paused, her eyes finding mine across the room. "And sometimes, that means having the courage to close one chapter so another can begin." I smiled, thinking she was talking about leaving her old life as a retail manager behind. Then Marcus appeared beside her, and something cold settled in my stomach. "Bobby," she continued, "could you come up here, please?" Our daughters pushed me forward, giggling. "Go, Daddy. Maybe Mommy has a surprise." She did. Just not the kind they imagined. I made my way through the crowd, feeling every eye on my discount suit and scuffed dress shoes. When I reached Jessica, she handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked, confused by the formality. "Open it," she said, her smile never wavering. Inside were legal documents. The words "petition for dissolution of marriage" jumped out at me like a physical blow. "Jess." My voice cracked. "What is this?" "It's what's best for both of us," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've been an adequate provider, Bobby, but I've outgrown our marriage. I need a partner who can match my ambition, my intellect, my new life." The room was dead silent. I could hear my daughters asking their grandmother what was happening. I could feel 200 pairs of eyes on me, waiting to see what the blue-collar husband would do. "You're divorcing me?" I asked, still not believing it. "Here, now, in front of our children." "I wanted witnesses," she said coolly, "to avoid any confusion about when and how you were notified. Marcus recommended this approach." "Marcus." I looked at him standing beside my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and understanding dawned. The late study sessions. The weekend moot court practices. The new clothes that appeared in her wardrobe that we couldn't afford. How long? I asked. That's irrelevant, Jessica said. What matters is moving forward. I've already retained counsel, the best family law attorney in Boston. I suggest you do the same, though I doubt you can afford anyone comparable. Daddy! Lily's voice cut through the shock. She and Emma had pushed through the crowd, their matching party dresses wrinkled from playing. Why does Mommy look mad? I knelt down, shoving the papers into my jacket pocket. Mommy's not mad, baby. Daddy just needs to go home early. Give me a hug. They wrapped their small arms around my neck, and I held them tight, breathing in their strawberry shampoo scent. Over their heads, I looked at Jessica. For just a moment, something flickered across her face. Regret? Doubt. But then Marcus touched her elbow, and her expression hardened back into that professional smile. I'll see you girls tomorrow, I said, though I wondered if that was true. If Jessica had planned this ambush so carefully, what else had she planned? I stood, nodded to the room of gawking strangers, and walked out with what dignity I could muster. Behind me, I heard Jessica's voice resume her speech, talking about new beginnings and the importance of staying true to yourself. In the parking lot, I sat in my 10-year-old pickup truck, the one Jessica had always been embarrassed by, and finally read the divorce papers properly. She wasn't just divorcing me. She was going for everything. The house I'd worked double shifts to pay for. Primary custody of the girls. Alimony, despite the fact that she'd be making 3 times my salary at the corporate law firm where she'd already accepted a position. The kicker was the date on the papers. They'd been drawn up 2 months ago. While I was working overtime to pay for her graduation party dress, she was planning this moment. While I was telling the girls how proud we were of Mommy, she was strategizing my humiliation. I drove home to our empty house. Jessica had taken the girls to her mother's for the weekend, another piece of her plan falling into place. I walked through rooms filled with memories. The kitchen table where I'd helped Jessica with her LSAT prep. The living room where we'd celebrated her acceptance to Harvard. The bedroom where we'd made love the night before she started classes, both of us crying with joy at the future we were building. Except we hadn't been building anything together. I'd been building her future while she planned her escape. I pulled out a beer, the cheap kind Jessica hated, and sat on our back porch. 4 years. 4 years of 16-hour days. 4 years of eating ramen while she had lunch with her study group at nice restaurants. 4 years of believing that every sacrifice was an investment in our family's future. The divorce papers sat on the table beside me, waiting. Tomorrow I'd have to find a lawyer I couldn't afford. Tomorrow I'd have to figure out how to fight for my daughters. Tomorrow I'd have to start rebuilding a life I'd willingly destroyed for someone who'd just proved she never loved me at all. But tonight, I sat in the dark and wondered how I'd been so blind. The signs had been there, I realized now. The way she'd started correcting my grammar. The way she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring, claiming it interfered with typing. The way she'd introduced me at law school events. This is Bobby. He works in construction. Never, this is my husband, or, this is the man who made this possible. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. What happened? Jessica says you made a scene and left. The girls are crying. I typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, ask Jessica. She has all the answers now. Then I turned off my phone, opened another beer, and prepared to mourn the death of the life I thought I'd been building. To understand the depth of Jessica's betrayal, you need to know how we began. We met in 2011 at a hardware store, of all places. I was 25, working as a journeyman carpenter, proud of my skill with my hands. She was 19, a college sophomore working part-time at Home Depot to help pay for school. I'd come in looking for a specific type of wood stain for a custom bookshelf I was building. She was working the paint department, wearing that orange apron over jeans and a Boston University t-shirt. Her honey blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she had a smudge of paint on her cheek. Can I help you? She'd asked, and her smile knocked the words right out of my head. I must have stood there like an idiot for a solid 5 seconds before managing, "Would stain. I need would stain." She laughed, not mockingly, but genuinely delighted. "Well, you're in the right department. Any particular kind?" That started a 20-minute conversation about wood grains, staining techniques, and somehow segued into her telling me about her business major and dreams of running her own company someday. "I'm going to be somebody," she said with fierce determination. "I'm not going to be stuck in retail forever. No offense to anyone who works retail," she added quickly, gesturing at her apron. "But I want more." "Nothing wrong with wanting more," I said. "What kind of business?" "I don't know yet. Maybe consulting. Maybe finance. Something where I can wear power suits and make decisions that matter." I should have paid attention to the way she talked about power suits and decisions that matter. But I was 25 and struck by her ambition, her beauty, and the way she laughed at my nervous jokes. "I'm building custom furniture," I offered. "Just started my own side business. Thompson Woodworks." Her eyes lit up. "That's amazing. You're an entrepreneur." No one had ever called me that before. In my world, I was just a carpenter trying to make extra money. But the way she said it made me feel like I was something special. I asked her out right there in the paint department. She said yes before I even finished stumbling through the invitation. Our first date was mini golf and ice cream, all I could afford, but Jessica didn't seem to mind. She told me about growing up in Revere, raised by a single mom who cleaned offices at night. How she'd studied by candlelight when the power got cut off. How she'd won a partial scholarship to BU but still worked 30 hours a week to cover the rest. "I'm never going to be poor again," she said, fierce determination in her voice. "I'm going to make something of myself." "You already are something," I told her. "You're amazing." She kissed me in the parking lot of that mini golf place, and I was gone. Completely, utterly gone. We dated for 2 years. I met her mother, Sharon, who sized me up with calculating eyes before deciding I was stable enough for her daughter. Jessica met my parents, Helen and Robert Sr., at Sunday dinner. My mother fell in love with her immediately. "She's got spark," Mom told me while doing dishes. "That girl's going places." "I know," I said proudly. "And I'm going to help her get there." "Just make sure she takes you with her," Mom said, and something in her tone should have warned me. But I was in love and didn't want warnings. Jessica graduated with her business degree in 2013. The job market was tough, and she ended up assistant managing a retail store, not the corporate ladder she'd envisioned. I watched her frustration grow with each rejected application, each interview that went nowhere. "I'm smarter than this," she'd rage after another bad day. "I'm better than folding sweaters and dealing with customer complaints." "You are," I'd agree, holding her while she cried angry tears. "Your time will come." I proposed on her 23rd birthday. I'd saved for 6 months for the ring. A modest solitaire that I presented after a dinner I'd cooked myself. Looking back, I can see the flicker of disappointment when she opened the box. She'd probably hoped for something bigger, something that photographed better. But she said yes, and that was all that mattered to me. We married the following spring in a small ceremony at St. Anthony's. Jessica had wanted something bigger, but we were saving money. She'd started talking about law school, having decided that business wasn't prestigious enough, didn't offer enough power. "Lawyers make the real decisions," she'd say. "They shape society. They matter." "You matter already," I'd tell her, but she'd wave me off. "You don't understand, Bobby. You're happy building things with your hands. And that's fine, someone has to do it. But I want to build things with my mind. I want to leave a legacy." The "someone has to do it" stung, but I pushed the feeling aside. She didn't mean it like it sounded. She was just frustrated, ambitious, reaching for more. And I loved that about her. Our wedding day, she looked radiant in a dress her mother had sewn, modified from Sharon's own wedding dress. My hands shook as I said my vows, promising to love, honor and cherish. To support her dreams. To build a life together. I promise to help you become everything you want to be, I added to the traditional vows, and Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I promise to never forget where we came from, she replied, and the church filled with approving murmurs. That night, in the budget hotel where we spent our wedding night, saving for law school, always saving, she traced patterns on my chest and talked about our future. When I'm a lawyer, we'll buy a big house in Wellesley. The girls will go to private school. Girls. I laughed. We're already having girls? Twin girls, she said decisively. Emma and Lily. They'll take ballet and play violin. They'll have everything we didn't have. What about boys? I teased. Boys are messy, she said, wrinkling her nose. Girls are easier to mold. That word, mold, should have been another warning. But I was 27, in bed with my beautiful new wife, and the future she painted seemed like a dream worth chasing. She got into law school 2 years later. Not Harvard, not at first. She was accepted to Suffolk University Law School, a respectable program but not the ivory tower she'd dreamed of. The acceptance letter came on a Tuesday. I found her crying at the kitchen table when I got home from work. Hey, I said, dropping my tool belt and rushing to her. What's wrong? She showed me the letter, and I whooped with joy. You got in. Baby, you got in. To Suffolk, she said bitterly. Not Harvard. Not Yale. Suffolk. So, it's still law school. You're still going to be a lawyer. A Suffolk lawyer. Do you know what that means in Boston legal circles? I'll always be second tier. Always playing catch-up to the Harvard and Yale grads. Then be so good they can't ignore you, I said. Show them that where you went matters less than who you are. She looked at me then with something I couldn't quite identify. Later, I'd recognize it as the first time she truly saw me as beneath her. Here I was, a carpenter without a college degree, trying to console her about attending a merely respectable law school. You're right, she said finally. I'll go to Suffolk. For now. But someday, I'll show them all. The cost was staggering. $50,000 a year just for tuition. Books, fees, living expenses on top of that. We sat at the kitchen table with a calculator and legal pads, trying to make the numbers work. I'll take out loans, she said. No. I was firm on this. No loans. We're not starting our life together under a mountain of debt. Then how? I'll work more. Take on extra jobs. My uncle's construction company needs a foreman for the night shift. Between that and weekend work, I can cover it. Bobby, that's 18-hour days. So, it's only 3 years. I can do anything for 3 years if it means you get your dream. She cried then, but they were happy tears. She climbed into my lap right there at the kitchen table, kissing me between promises of how she'd make it worth it, how our sacrifice would pay off, how she'd never forget what I was doing for her. When I'm a lawyer, you can quit construction, she promised. Start that furniture business full-time. We'll be partners in everything. Partners, I agreed, sealing it with a kiss. If I'd known then that she was already keeping score, already calculating what she owed versus what she deserved, would I have made different choices? Probably not. Love makes you stupid, and I was desperately in love with my ambitious, beautiful wife who looked at me like I was her hero. She started Suffolk Law that fall. I started working double shifts. And somewhere between those two beginnings, the end of our marriage was already being written. Jessica's first year of law school was brutal for both of us, but in different ways. She was drowning in casebooks and study groups while I was drowning in exhaustion and bills. But we were doing it together, or so I thought. She'd wake up at 5 a.m. to study before her 8 a.m. torts class. I'd already be gone, having left at 4:30 for the construction site. My foreman position meant being there before the crew, setting up, planning the day. I'd work until 3 p.m., grab a gas station sandwich, then head to my uncle's company for the evening shift that ran from 4 p.m. to midnight. "You're going to kill yourself," my mother said when I stopped by one Sunday to fix her leaking sink. "No job is worth your health." "It's not a job, Ma. It's an investment. In Jessica. In our future." She pressed her lips together the way she did when she wanted to say something but thought better of it. "Just be careful, Bobby. Some investments don't pay the dividends you expect." I was too tired to ask what she meant. Too focused on making it through each day to see the warnings everyone else seemed to notice. Jessica thrived in law school. She'd come home bubbling with excitement about cases, precedents, the Socratic method. I'd sit at the dinner table, fighting to keep my eyes open while she explained the intricacies of constitutional law. "Am I boring you?" she asked one night, hurt creeping into her voice. "No, baby. Never. I'm just tired. Tell me more about the Commerce Clause." She'd smile and launch back into her explanation, and I'd focus on her animated face, the way her hands moved when she talked, storing up these moments of her happiness to sustain me through the long, dark hours of work. The first crack appeared during finals week. Jessica was stressed, surviving on coffee and determination. I'd taken a rare Saturday off to help her study, making flashcards and quizzing her on case law I didn't understand. "No, Bobby, that's wrong," she snapped when I mispronounced a Latin legal term. "It's ratio decidendi, not whatever you just said." "Sorry. I'm trying. I know. It's just." She rubbed her temples. "Maybe I should study with my group. They understand this stuff." "Your study group?" This was the first I'd heard of it. "Some classmates. We meet at Marcus Chen's apartment. His place is bigger, quieter." Marcus Chen. The name meant nothing to me then. Just another classmate in Jessica's new world. "I could be quieter," I offered. She softened, touching my face. "You're exhausted. Go sleep. I'll study better knowing you're resting." So I slept while she went to Marcus Chen's apartment. I told myself it was fine, necessary. She needed to be around people who understood her new world. I was just the support system, the foundation that kept everything stable. Jessica aced her first-year finals. We celebrated with Chinese takeout, all we could afford, and she talked about transferring to Harvard for her second year. Harvard. I nearly choked on my lo mein. I thought Suffolk was good. It is. But Harvard is better. And they accept transfers. If I'm in the top 5% of my class. Jess, Harvard's got to be twice as expensive. But think of the opportunities, Bobby. Harvard law graduates go anywhere, do anything. We'd make the money back in no time. I noticed she said, "We'd make the money back," but somehow I knew the making would fall to me while the spending would be hers. "Of course we're a team." A team. I held on to that word through the spring semester as she spent more time with her study group, as she started dropping comments about how Marcus says and Marcus thinks. I told myself it was normal, healthy even. She was building a network, making connections that would help our family. Then came the acceptance letter from Harvard. I was working a Saturday, overtime paid time and a half, when she called, screaming with joy. "I got in. Bobby, I got in. Harvard Law School." I sat down hard on a stack of lumber, my hammer forgotten. That's amazing, baby. I'm so proud of you. Can you come home? I want to celebrate." I looked around the half-finished house. Leaving meant losing not just the overtime but potentially the whole job. My reputation as reliable was all I had. "I'll be home by 6, I promised. "We'll celebrate then." There was a pause. "Marcus is taking some of us out for champagne. You could meet us after." Marcus again. Always Marcus. "I'll see you at home," I said firmly. "This is our celebration." But when I got home, exhausted and covered in sawdust, Jessica was already tipsy on expensive champagne. Her study group had toasted her success while I'd been laying foundation for someone else's dream home. "Harvard, Bobby. She spun around our tiny living room. Can you believe it? How much? I asked, hating myself for killing her joy but needing to know. Her face fell slightly. 70,000 a year. But Bobby, it's Harvard. It's worth it. 70,000. Plus living expenses. Plus books. We'd barely been making Suffolk work at 50,000. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. If this is what you want, I'll figure it out. She threw herself into my arms, and for a moment, it felt like the early days. Just us against the world. I'll make this worth it, she whispered. I promise. When I'm a Harvard lawyer, you'll never have to work these crazy hours again. I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. That summer, I took on a third job doing residential repairs on Sundays. 7 days a week, 18 to 20 hours a day. My body started breaking down. Chronic back pain, hands that wouldn't stop shaking from exhaustion, headaches that lasted for days. You need to see a doctor, Jessica said one morning, watching me struggle to button my work shirt with stiff fingers. Can't afford it. No insurance at the night job. Bobby. It's fine. 2 more years. I can do 2 more years. She kissed me goodbye, and I drove to work thinking about the house in Wellesley she'd dreamed of, the twin girls who'd take ballet, the life we were building one sacrifice at a time. I didn't notice that she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring. She said it got in the way of typing, and I believed her. I didn't notice that her study sessions with Marcus were getting longer, lasting until 2 or 3 a.m. She said Harvard was harder than Suffolk, and I believed her. I believed everything because the alternative, that I was killing myself for someone who was already planning her exit, was unthinkable. Jessica started Harvard Law in the fall of 2019. The difference was immediate and profound. It wasn't just the workload or the prestige, it was like she'd entered an entirely different universe, one where I increasingly didn't belong. You should see the campus, she gushed after her first day. The buildings, the history. Obama walked these halls, Bobby. Supreme Court justices. Presidents. And now Jessica Thompson, I said, trying to share her enthusiasm despite my exhaustion. Jessica Hayes Thompson, she corrected. I'm using my hyphenated name professionally. It sounds more sophisticated. That was the first time she'd distanced herself from my name. I told myself it didn't matter. What's in a name? But it was the beginning of her systematic erasure of me from her new life. The financial strain was immediate and crushing. Harvard's $70,000 tuition was just the start. There were books, $3,000 a semester. Laptop upgrades because her old one wasn't fast enough. Professional clothes because everyone dresses better at Harvard. Networking events that cost $100 a ticket. It's an investment, she'd say whenever I questioned an expense. You have to spend money to make money. We're not making money, I'd point out. We're hemorrhaging it. Not we, Bobby. You're not making enough money. Maybe if you'd gone to college. She'd stop herself, apologize, blame the stress. But the words hung between us like a blade. I picked up more work where I could. Cash jobs on Sundays. Helping friends move. Selling plasma twice a week for an extra $50. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch and dinner, saving every penny for Jessica's education. Meanwhile, she was having lunch at Cambridge restaurants with her study group. Networking, she called it. Marcus says connections matter as much as grades. Marcus Chen. He was in her section, came from Tech Money, drove a Tesla to campus. Everything I wasn't and couldn't be. Tell me about Marcus, I said one night, trying to keep my tone casual. What about him? Jessica didn't look up from her criminal law textbook. You mention him a lot. He's brilliant. Top of our class. His father founded 3 companies. He's already got offers for summer positions at firms that won't even look at the rest of us until 3rd year. Must be nice, having those connections. It's not just connections, she said defensively. Marcus works hard. He understands sacrifice. I wanted to laugh. What sacrifice did Marcus know? Had he ever worked a 20-hour day? Had he ever chosen between eating and paying rent? But I kept quiet because arguing with Jessica about her new friends always ended the same way, with her accusing me of being jealous and unsupportive. The twins were conceived during winter break of her second year. We hadn't planned it, could barely afford ourselves, let alone children. But Jessica had forgotten to refill her birth control during finals, and one night of reconnection led to 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. I was terrified but tried to hide it. We'll make it work. People have done more with less. Jessica stared at the test like it was a death sentence. I can't have a baby now. I'm in the middle of Harvard Law. Do you know what this will do to my career prospects? Jess. I'll have to defer. Take time off. The firms want dedication, Bobby. They don't want mothers who'll put family first. Then they're not firms worth working for. She looked at me with such contempt it took my breath away. You don't understand anything about my world. Her world. Not our world. Hers. But she didn't terminate the pregnancy. Whether from Catholic guilt or fear of judgment, she decided to continue. When we found out it was twins, she cried for 3 days straight. This is a disaster, she sobbed. How am I supposed to compete with Marcus and the others when I'm waddling around campus with twins? You're creating life, I said, hurt by her reaction. That's more important than competing with Marcus. Is it? Will creating life pay off my student loans? Will it get me a clerkship? Will it make me a partner at a firm? I didn't have answers for her. I just worked more, saved more, prepared for our girls as best I could. Jessica hid the pregnancy as long as possible, wearing baggy clothes, avoiding social events. When she finally had to tell her study group, Marcus was reportedly very supportive. He offered to share his notes when I'm on bed rest, she told me. And his mother knows the head of HR at several firms. She can help navigate maternity leave policies. That's nice of him. He's a good friend. I wanted to believe that's all he was. Emma and Lily were born in August 2020, between Jessica's 2nd and 3rd years. The delivery was complicated, emergency C-section after 18 hours of labor. I held Jessica's hand through it all, whispering encouragement, telling her how strong she was. When the nurses placed our daughters in our arms, Emma in mine, Lily in Jessica's, I felt my world shift. These tiny, perfect beings were ours. Our legacy. Our future. They're beautiful, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Jessica looked at Lily with an expression I couldn't read. She's so small. So dependent. That's what babies are, Jess. Small and dependent. For how long? The question chilled me. Who asks how long their newborn will need them? Forever, in different ways, I said. That's what being a parent means. Jessica handed Lily to the nurse. I need to rest. The semester starts in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. She'd just had major surgery, delivered twins, and she was thinking about school starting in 3 weeks. I took paternity leave, unpaid, of course. My uncle held my position but couldn't pay me for time I wasn't working. I spent those weeks in a blur of diapers, bottles, and desperate love for these tiny humans who depended our lives. Jessica pumped breast milk with the efficiency of someone completing a distasteful task. She held the girls when necessary but handed them back quickly. I have reading to do, was her constant refrain. They need their mother, I said one night after she declined to help with the 2 a.m. feeding. They have their father, she replied from behind her constitutional law textbook. That's more than I had. My mother came to help when I had to return to work. She took one look at our dynamic and pulled me aside. Bobby, this isn't right. A mother who won't hold her babies. She's stressed, Ma. Harvard's demanding. Once she graduates, she'll have more time. Mom shook her head. Some women aren't meant to be mothers. No shame in it, but those babies need someone who wants them. I want them, I said fiercely. I want them enough for both of us. That's what I'm afraid of. Jessica returned to Harvard 3 weeks postpartum, leaving the twins with my mother during the day. I'd work my regular shift, come home to relieve Mom, then head to my night job after the girls were asleep. Mom would come back for the overnight shift. "This is insane," she said after a month of this schedule. "You're going to collapse." What choice do I have? Jessica needs to finish school. We've invested too much to quit now. Invested, Mom repeated. Is that what you call this? An investment? What would you call it? A woman using you up and throwing you away. Ma. I'm sorry, Bobby, but someone needs to say it. She doesn't love you. She doesn't love those babies. She loves what you can do for her, and when she doesn't need you anymore. You're wrong, I insisted. She's just focused. Once she graduates, once she's established, we'll be a real family. Mom kissed my cheek sadly. I hope you're right. But Bobby, those girls need someone planning for the possibility that you're wrong. That night, I watched Jessica at her desk, highlighting cases while our daughters slept in their bassinets. She was beautiful in the lamplight, focused and fierce. But when Emma started crying, she didn't even look up. Jess, can you get her? She said without lifting her eyes from the page. I have a memo due tomorrow. I picked up Emma, then Lily when she joined her sister's cries. I held my daughters, swaying in the darkness, and wondered when I'd become a single parent in my own marriage. It's okay, I whispered to them. Daddy's here. Daddy will always be here. I meant it as a promise. Jessica probably heard it as permission to leave. By Jessica's final year at Harvard, she was unrecognizable as the girl I'd met in the Home Depot paint department. The transformation was complete. She dressed, spoke, and carried herself like someone born to privilege rather than someone who'd clawed her way up from Revere. You need to stop shopping at Walmart, she announced one evening, going through the girls' clothes with disdain. Emma and Lily deserve better than clearance rack clothing. It's what we can afford, I reminded her, bouncing Lily on my knee while Emma played with blocks at my feet. The twins were 2 now, beautiful and bright, the only pure joy in my increasingly difficult life. That's going to change, Jessica said, tossing a perfectly good dress into the donation pile. I've accepted an offer from Whitman, Chambers and Associates. Starting salary, $215,000. I nearly dropped Lily. $215,000? Plus bonuses. Could be close to $300,000 my first year if I bill enough hours. Jess, that's incredible. It's what Harvard lawyers make, she said with a shrug, like it was nothing. Like the years of my sacrifice to get her there meant nothing. Marcus is going to Sullivan and Cromwell. They offered $225,000, but Whitman has a better partnership track. Always Marcus. He'd become a constant presence in our lives, study sessions that ran late, weekend moot courts, networking events where spouses weren't welcome. Speaking of which, Jessica continued, we need to talk about appearances. Appearances. Bobby, I'm about to enter a very image-conscious profession. The other associates will have spouses who are similarly educated. Professional. I'm a professional. I'm a foreman. I run million-dollar construction projects. You work with your hands, she said, like it was something shameful. You don't even have a college degree. Because I was too busy paying for yours. The girls looked up at my raised voice, and I immediately softened. Sorry, babies. Daddy's not angry. Daddy's sad. Emma asked, toddling over to pat my knee. No, sweetheart. Daddy's happy. I forced a smile. Jessica watched this interaction with detachment, like she was observing a case study rather than her family. I'm just saying, she continued, there will be firm events, partner dinners. You'll need to elevate yourself. Elevate myself? Learn to speak properly. Stop using double negatives. Maybe take some night classes, read something besides Sports Illustrated. When would I have time for night classes? I work 2 jobs to pay for your loans. About that, she said, pulling out a folder. I've run the numbers. With my salary, you can quit the night job. Maybe even construction altogether. You could be a stay-at-home dad. The folder contained spreadsheets, budgets, projections. She'd planned my obsolescence with the same precision she used for her law briefs. I don't want to be a stay-at-home dad. I like my work. Your work is beneath us now. Us? Or you? She sighed like I was a child failing to grasp a simple concept. Bobby, I'm trying to help you. Do you want to be a construction worker forever? I wanted to be a furniture maker. Remember? Thompson Woodworks. But I put that dream on hold for yours. And now I'm successful enough to support us. Isn't that what you wanted? It wasn't. What I'd wanted was a partner, not a patron. But I couldn't articulate that with Emma now climbing into my lap alongside her sister, both girls sensing the tension and seeking comfort from the parent who actually provided it. The firm events started before she even graduated. Pre-networking, she called it. I attended exactly one, a cocktail party at a partner's Beacon Hill townhouse. I'd worn my best suit, the one from our wedding, altered to hide the weight I'd lost from stress and overwork. Jessica looked at me like I'd shown up in overalls. Is that what you're wearing? It's my only suit. Christ. Bobby. Here. She handed me her credit card. Go to Brooks Brothers. Get something appropriate. We can't afford. I'll expense it. The firm gave me a signing bonus. I should have had more pride. Should have refused. But the girls needed new shoes and I'd been putting off fixing the truck's transmission. If Jessica wanted to waste money on a suit I'd wear twice a year, that was her choice. The party was excruciating. Lawyers and their spouses discussed vacation homes, private schools, art collections. I stood in the corner, nursing a beer while Jessica worked the room. She didn't introduce me to anyone. When people asked, she'd say, "Oh, Bobby's around here somewhere," like I was a coach she'd checked rather than her husband. Marcus was there, of course. Tall, polished, with the easy confidence of someone who'd never wondered if his card would be declined at the grocery store. He found me by the bar. "You must be Bobby," he said, extending a manicured hand. "Jessica talks about you." "Does she?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "Of course. She says you've been very supportive of her career." Supportive. Like I was a cheerleader rather than the one who'd made it possible. "I do what I can." "It must be difficult," he continued, "watching her transform. She's quite remarkable." "She always was." "Was she?" He smiled like he knew something I didn't. "I find that hard to imagine. The Jessica I know seems like she was born for this world. The Jessica you know isn't the complete person." Perhaps. Or perhaps she's finally becoming who she was meant to be. I wanted to punch his smug face. Instead, I finished my beer and went to find Jessica. She was holding court with a group of senior associates, gesturing animatedly as she told a story I recognized, about the time she'd won a moot court competition. Except in her version, she'd done it alone. No mention of the husband who'd stayed up all night helping her practice, who'd listened to her arguments so many times he could recite them himself. "I should go," I told her quietly. "The babysitter charges extra after 10. "Oh, Bobby's leaving," she announced to the group, like it was expected. "He has to relieve the babysitter." "Your wife is amazing," one of the associates told me. "Harvard Law Review, federal clerkship offers, and Whitman snatched her up. You must be so proud." "I am," I said. "I've always been proud of her." "Well, now you can relax," the man laughed. "Let her take care of you for a change." Jessica laughed too, bright and false. "Bobby doesn't know how to relax. He's compulsively responsible." Compulsively responsible. Like it was a flaw rather than the trait that had gotten her where she stood. I left without saying goodbye. At home, I paid the babysitter, a teenager from down the street who looked at the bills like they were foreign objects. The girls had been perfect, she reported. No trouble at all. I looked in on them, Emma and Lily curled together in Emma's bed like puppies. We'd said they should sleep separately, but they always found their way to each other by morning. I kissed their foreheads, breathing in their sweet smell, grounding myself in their innocence. Jessica came home at 2 a.m., shoes in hand, makeup smudged. Good party? I asked from the couch where I'd been waiting. Marcus thinks I have a shot at making partner in 5 years instead of 7. Can you imagine? Partner at 37. That's great. She finally noticed my tone. What's wrong now? You told those people I was compulsively responsible. Like it's something to be ashamed of. Oh, Bobby. It was a joke. Was it? Because from where I'm sitting, my compulsive responsibility is the only reason you were at that party. Here we go, she said, rolling her eyes. The martyr complex. Martyr complex? Jessica, I've worked myself into the ground for you. I've sacrificed everything. I didn't ask you to sacrifice everything. Yes, you did. Every time you applied to a more expensive school, every time you needed new clothes, every time you... Daddy! Lily stood in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Why yelling? I immediately softened, going to pick her up. Sorry, baby. Daddy was just talking too loud. Let's get you back to bed. Mama pretty, Lily said, reaching for Jessica's sparkly dress. Jessica stepped back. Don't touch, Lily. It's dry clean only. Our daughter's face crumpled, and I quickly distracted her. Come on, sweetie. Let's read a story. As I carried Lily back to bed, I heard Jessica on the phone. Marcus? Yeah, I just got home. No, it's fine, he's putting the kids down. About tomorrow's study session. Study session. She was graduating in 3 months. What exactly were they studying? But I was too tired to care. Too worn down to fight. I read Lily 3 stories, stayed until her breathing deepened, then checked on Emma. By the time I returned to our bedroom, Jessica was asleep, her phone face down on the nightstand. I should have looked. Should have confirmed what I already suspected. But I was afraid of what I'd find. Afraid of having to make decisions I wasn't ready to make. So I lay beside my wife, listening to her breathe, wondering when she'd become a stranger. 3 months. I just had to make it 3 more months until graduation. Then she'd have her degree, her job, her success. Maybe then she'd remember who'd helped her get there. Maybe then we could be a family again. I was still lying to myself, even as the truth prepared its final assault. Spring of Jessica's final semester brought a series of small betrayals that I can only see clearly in hindsight. Each one seemed survivable at the time, just another sacrifice on the altar of her success. Together, they formed the avalanche that would bury our marriage. It started with the nanny. We need childcare, Jessica announced in March. Proper childcare, not your mother. My mother's been amazing, I protested. The girls love her. She lets them watch too much TV. And her English. Her English is fine. She says, ain't, Bobby. Do you want our daughters speaking like that? Like their grandmother who loves them? Yes, I'm fine with that. Well, I'm not. I've interviewed several nannies from the agency Marcus recommended. You interviewed nannies without discussing it with me? You were working. Besides, it's my salary that will pay for it. There it was. My salary. Not our salary. The money she earned was hers. The money I earned had been ours when she needed it, but now... Fine, I said, too exhausted to fight. But my mother still sees the girls. Of course. On weekends. The nanny Jessica hired was named Prudence, a 22-year-old education major who spoke 3 languages and had opinions about child-led learning and Montessori principles. She looked at me the way Jessica's classmates did, like I was the help. "Mr. Thompson," she said on her first day, "what time do you typically return from work?" "Varies. Usually by dinner. I'll need a more specific schedule. Routine is crucial for children's development." "Lady, I work construction. Sometimes we finish at 4, sometimes at 7. Depends on the job." She made a note in her leather-bound planner. "I see. Well, perhaps Mrs. Thompson can provide more structure." Mrs. Thompson. Jessica hadn't corrected her about the hyphenated name. The girls hated Prudence at first. She had rules about screen time, organic snacks, structured activities. No more lazy mornings watching cartoons with Grandma Helen. No more ice cream rewards for good behavior. "Want guama?" Lily sobbed one evening when Prudence tried to implement a soothing bedtime routine involving meditation music. "Grandma can visit Saturday," Jessica said coolly. "Prudence says consistency is key." "Prudence says? What about what our daughters say?" "They're 3, Bobby. They don't know what's best for them." "And a 22-year-old who's never had kids does?" "She has a degree in early childhood education." "My mother raised 2 kids who turned out pretty well." Jessica gave me a look that said she disagreed about how well we turned out, but she let it go. The next betrayal came in April. Taxes. I'd always done our taxes. Basic software, standard deductions, nothing fancy. But that year, Jessica hired an accountant. "Marcus's guy," she explained, handing me forms to sign. "He specializes in high-income professionals." "We're not high-income yet. I will be soon. Bradley says we need to structure things properly from the start." Bradley had ideas. Lots of ideas. Most of them involved minimizing Jessica's tax burden by shifting things to me. "Since Mr. Thompson is in a lower bracket," he explained like I wasn't sitting right there, "it makes sense to allocate certain deductions his way." Allocate. The child care expenses, for instance. Better to run those through your returns. "But Jessica's paying for the nanny." "On paper, yes. But for tax purposes." I looked at Jessica. "You want me to claim expenses I'm not paying to reduce your taxes?" "Our taxes, Bobby. We're married. Then why does it matter whose return claims what?" Bradley and Jessica exchanged a look I didn't like. "It's complicated," Bradley said. "Trust me, this structure is best for your family." I signed the papers. What choice did I have? Jessica had already decided. But something felt wrong about the way Bradley kept referring to Jessica's assets and Mr. Thompson's liabilities. The final straw came 2 weeks before graduation. Jessica was at another networking event, always networking, always with Marcus, when Lily got sick. High fever, vomiting, crying for mama. I called Jessica. Straight to voicemail. "Prudence, can you stay late? I need to find my wife." "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, but I have classes. Perhaps you could call your mother." My mother. Always my mother when something was actually needed. I called in sick to my night job, the 3rd time that month. My uncle warned me about reliability, but what could I do? Someone had to be the parent. At the ER, Lily clung to me, burning with fever. "Want mama," she kept whimpering. "I know, baby. Mama's at work." The doctor diagnosed an ear infection, prescribed antibiotics, gave me instructions for care. "Standard kid stuff," he assured me. Nothing to worry about. I finally reached Jessica at midnight. "Is everything okay?" she asked, music and laughter in the background. "Lily's sick. We just got back from the hospital." "Hospital? What happened?" I explained about the fever, the ear infection, the 3 hours in the ER with a screaming toddler. "But she's fine now?" "Yes, but..." "Thank God. I was so worried when I saw your calls." Marcus is giving a toast. I should go. Jessica, your daughter was in the hospital. And you handled it beautifully. You always do. Kiss the girls for me. She hung up. I stood in our dark kitchen, holding the prescription bag, wondering when I'd become a single parent. My mother arrived the next morning to help. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. How bad was it? Lily's fine. Ear infection. I meant you, Bobby. How bad was it being alone? I'm used to it. You shouldn't be. She busied herself making coffee. Where was Jessica? Networking event. Is that what they're calling it now? Ma. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to hear it. But Bobby, this isn't a marriage anymore. It's you providing services while she lives her life. She's almost done with school. Once she graduates. What? You think she'll suddenly remember she has a family? You think that job paying more money than God will make her want to spend time with her daughters? She's their mother. Biology doesn't make someone a mother. Helen is more their mother than Jessica. That's not. But I couldn't finish. Because it was true. My mother knew their favorite foods, their fears, their bedtime stories. Jessica knew their clothing sizes and pediatrician's name. Administrative details. What are you going to do? Ma asked gently. Graduate her. Get her to the finish line. Then we'll see. Bobby. 2 more weeks, Ma. I can do anything for 2 more weeks. She squeezed my hand. I'll take the girls this weekend. You need rest. I need to work. Graduation's expensive. What now? Jessica wants a party. Something worthy of Harvard Law. She's already put deposits down. With what money? Credit cards. But don't worry, her signing bonus will cover it. Ma's face said everything she didn't. Another expense. Another thing I'd have to figure out how to pay for when Jessica's promises inevitably fell short. But I was so close. 2 more weeks and I'd have done it. Taken the girl from the paint department and transformed her into a Harvard lawyer. 2 more weeks and maybe, finally, we could rest. I kissed my sleeping daughters goodbye and went to work, not knowing Jessica had already scheduled her final transformation. The one where she shed the last remnant of her old life. Me. May 15, 2024, dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for Harvard Law School's graduation. I'd taken the day off work, losing a day's pay I couldn't afford to miss, but this was it. The culmination of everything we'd sacrificed for. I dressed the girls in matching navy dresses with white Peter Pan collars, Jessica's choice, ordered online and costing more than my work boots. They looked like miniature lawyers themselves, serious and sophisticated. Daddy pretty, Emma declared, patting my freshly shaved face. Daddy's trying, I laughed, adjusting my new tie. Jessica had insisted I buy a new one. The old one has stains, she'd said, though I couldn't see any. Mama pretty too? Lily asked. Mama's beautiful, I assured her, though I hadn't seen Jessica yet. She'd spent the night at a hotel near campus with her study group. Tradition, she'd said. Marcus booked a suite for everyone. My mother met us at the house to help with the girls. She looked at my tired face and forced smile with knowing eyes. Big day, she said carefully. The biggest. 4 years, Ma. We made it. You made it, she corrected. You got her there. We're a team. She didn't respond, just helped buckle the girls into their car seats. The drive to Cambridge felt both endless and too quick. I'd imagined this day so many times. Jessica in her cap and gown, our family complete and proud, the struggles behind us and success ahead. We met Jessica outside the law school. She looked radiant in her black gown, the gold hood of Harvard Law draped over her shoulders. For a moment, I saw the girl from Home Depot, fierce with ambition and dreams. My heart squeezed with love and pride. Mama! The girls reached for her. Careful, she said, stepping back. Don't wrinkle the gown. Prudence, please. Prudence appeared from nowhere, efficiently corralling the girls. When had she arrived? Why was the nanny at graduation? Pictures first, Jessica directed, positioning us like a photographer. Bobby, stand here. No, more to the left. Can you hold the girls? Actually, Prudence, you hold them. Bobby, just stand behind. We took dozens of photos, Jessica directing each one. I noticed she kept checking her phone between shots, texting rapidly. Everything okay? I asked. Fine. Marcus is coordinating the party logistics. So many moving parts. I could have helped with that. She gave me a look that said everything. No, you couldn't have. You don't know these people, this world, this life I've built without you. The ceremony itself was held in Harvard Yard, centuries of tradition weighing down the air. I sat with the girls and my mother while Prudence went to secure a better viewing angle for photos. The speeches were long, full of references to justice and duty and changing the world. Lily fell asleep on my shoulder. Emma played quietly with a small toy I'd smuggled in. Jessica Marie Hayes Thompson. I stood when they called her name, lifting Lily so she could see. There's Mama, I whispered. Wave to Mama. Jessica walked across the stage with perfect poise, accepting her diploma with a smile that could power Boston. She looked out at the crowd, and for a second, our eyes met. Something flickered across her face. Regret? Sadness. But then she was moving on, and the moment passed. That's our Mama, Emma told the stranger next to us proudly. Yes, it is, I said, my voice thick. That's our Mama. After the ceremony, we found Jessica in the crowd of new lawyers. She was surrounded by classmates, all congratulating each other, making plans for bar exam study groups and summer vacations before starting their firms. Congratulations, counselor, I said, the old joke we'd shared when she'd first started law school. Thank you, she said formally, like I was a colleague rather than her husband. Marcus appeared at her elbow. Of course he did. Tall, handsome, with that easy confidence money provides from birth. Bobby, the man of the hour. You must be so proud. I am. Jessica says you've been incredibly supportive. Not many spouses could handle what you have. There was something in his tone, the way he emphasized handle, that set my teeth on edge. We support each other, I said. Of course. He smiled, placing a hand on Jessica's elbow. Ready for the party? My parents are already at the venue. Your parents? I looked at Jessica. I didn't know Marcus's parents were coming. They're in town for his graduation. It made sense to combine celebrations. Combine? Jess, this is your day. Our day, Marcus corrected. The whole study group, really. We got through together. I wanted to scream. They got through together? What about the man who'd worked 20-hour days? What about the mother who'd raised their children? What about everyone who'd sacrificed while they sat in libraries and discussed theoretical justice? But the girls were there, and my mother was watching with worried eyes, and this was Jessica's day. So I smiled and nodded and followed them to the Ritz-Carlton like a good, supportive spouse. The ballroom was beyond elegant. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids on every table, champagne flowing like water. I recognized some faces from Jessica's study group, but most were strangers, the kind of people who looked born to places like this. The Thompsons. The hostess checked her list. Table 12. Table 12 was in the back, half hidden behind a decorative screen. I noticed Marcus's parents were at table 1, along with Jessica and the other Harvard graduates. There must be a mistake, I told the hostess. I'm Jessica's husband. She checked again. Table 12. The children's table is set up there as well. The children's table. We'd been relegated to the children's table. It's fine, my mother said, seeing my face. We'll make it work. But it wasn't fine. I watched Jessica work the room, champagne in hand, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. She looked completely at home among these people who'd never worked with their hands, never worried about making rent, never sacrificed anything that mattered. "Daddy, hungry." Emma tugged at my sleeve. "Let's find you some food, baby." The children's menu was chicken nuggets and French fries. The adult menu at table 12 wasn't much better, clearly an afterthought. Meanwhile, I could see prime rib and lobster being served at the front tables. "This is humiliating," I muttered. "This is intentional," my mother corrected. "She's showing you your place." "Ma." "No. Bobby. Look around. Really look. You've been seated with the help, the nannies, the drivers. Your wife is at the head table with another man's family. What does that tell you?" Before I could answer, the speeches began. Marcus's father talked about legacy and achievement. A professor praised the graduating class's brilliance. Marcus himself gave a toast about friendship and support, his eyes finding Jessica's repeatedly. Then Jessica stood, tapping her champagne glass. The room quieted. "Thank you all for being here," she began, poised and confident. "This journey has been the hardest thing I've ever done. There were times I wanted to quit, times I thought I couldn't make it. But I had help." My heart lifted. Finally, some acknowledgement. "Marcus," she continued, raising her glass to him, "you've been my rock. My study partner, my cheerleader, my best friend. I couldn't have done this without you." The room awed. Marcus stood, bowing theatrically. They embraced. Too long, too familiar. And to all my classmates who became family, Jessica went on, who understood the sacrifice, the dedication, the late nights and early mornings. "We did it together." She sat down. That was it. No mention of the husband who'd paid for it all. No mention of the mother who'd raised her children. No mention of the actual sacrifice that had made her achievement possible. The girls were getting restless. Lily had spilled juice on her expensive dress. Emma was whining about being bored. This wasn't a place for children, despite the children's table. This wasn't a place for us. "I'm taking them home," I told my mother. "Bobby, wait." But I was already gathering our things. That's when Jessica appeared, Marcus at her side. "Where are you going?" she asked, irritation flashing across her face. "The girls are tired. This isn't really a kid-friendly event." That's why we hired Prudence. Our daughters need their parents, not a nanny. "Their parent is networking," she said coldly. "This is important. More important than your family." She glanced around, aware people were watching. "Let's not do this here." "When should we do it, Jess?" "When you have time. When you're done impressing people who don't matter." "They do matter. They're my future." "What about our future?" She sighed, then smiled, that professional smile I'd grown to hate. "Bobby, could you come with me for a moment?" "Marcus, watch the girls." I followed her to a quiet corner, my stomach churning. She pulled an envelope from her clutch, the same envelope I'd later open in front of everyone. "I was going to do this privately later," she said. "But since you're making a scene." "Do what?" She handed me the envelope. "It's better this way. Clean break. You'll see the terms are generous. I'm not asking for spousal support, and I'm willing to discuss joint custody." I stared at the envelope like it might bite me. "You're divorcing me? At your graduation party?" "I wanted witnesses." Marcus said. "Marcus said? You discussed our marriage with Marcus. He's been advising me. As a friend. As a friend." I laughed, bitter and broken. "How long have you been fucking him?" Her face flushed. "That's crude and irrelevant." "It's not irrelevant to me." "How long, Jessica? This isn't about Marcus." "No." "Then what's it about?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you used me to get through school and now you're trading up." "I'm growing, Bobby. Evolving. And you're the same guy from Home Depot." And that's fine, but it's not enough anymore. I'm the same guy who loved you. Who sacrificed everything. I didn't ask you to sacrifice everything. Yes, you did. Every day for 4 years, you asked. And I gave it because I loved you. Because I believed in us. There is no us. There hasn't been for a long time. I looked at her. Really looked. The girl from Revere was gone, replaced by this polished stranger in designer clothes. What about the girls? They'll be fine. Children adapt. Prudence will help with the transition. Prudence? You think a nanny replaces a father? You'll still be their father. Every other weekend, Wednesday dinners. It's all in the papers. Every other weekend. She'd reduced me to every other weekend. I'm taking them home, I said quietly. We can talk about this tomorrow. Actually, she said, I think it's best if you go alone. The girls can stay with Prudence tonight. Give you time to process. You're keeping me from my daughters? I'm protecting them from a volatile situation. My lawyer said. Your lawyer? I laughed, harsh and disbelieving. You've already got a lawyer? Of course. I'm a lawyer, Bobby. I know how these things work. These things. Our marriage. Our family. Just things to be dissolved. I looked back at the party, at Marcus entertaining our daughters, at the life Jessica had chosen over ours. Daddy leaving? Emma called out, starting to run toward me. Prudence efficiently intercepted her. Daddy has to go to work, sweetie. You're staying at the fun party. But I want Daddy. Tomorrow, baby, I called, my voice breaking. I'll see you tomorrow. Jessica returned to her party. I walked out alone, past the valets who looked at me with pity, past the Bentleys and Mercedes to my beat-up truck. 4 years. 4 years of sacrifice, of believing, of building toward this moment. And she'd planned it all, the public humiliation, the legal maneuvering, the new life that didn't include me. I drove home to our empty house, the divorce papers on the seat beside me. In the rearview mirror, the Ritz-Carlton grew smaller, taking with it the life I thought I'd been building. But the worst part. Even then, sitting in my driveway, I was calculating how to afford a lawyer, how to fight for my girls, how to survive this. Still being compulsively responsible, even as my world burned down. The house felt like a mausoleum when I finally went inside. Every room held ghosts, Jessica studying at the kitchen table, the girls taking their first steps in the living room, all of us together before law school changed everything. I sat at that same kitchen table where I'd helped her prepare for the LSAT, and finally read the divorce papers properly. Jessica hadn't just prepared for divorce, she'd strategized it like a military campaign. She wanted the house I'd paid for with construction work and overtime. She wanted primary custody, offering me generous visitation of every other weekend plus Wednesday dinners. She wanted child support calculated on my imputed income potential rather than what I actually made, claiming I was voluntarily underemployed by choosing construction over management positions. The real kicker was the date the papers were drawn up, 3 months ago. While I was working double shifts to pay for her graduation dress, she was meeting with divorce attorneys. While I was telling the girls how proud we were of Mommy, she was dividing our assets on spreadsheets. My phone rang. Marcus's number. How did I even have it? Bobby. It's Marcus. Just wanted to check that you got home safely. Fuck you. I understand you're upset. Do you? Do you understand what it's like to have your life stolen by someone who was born with everything? I didn't steal anything, Bobby. Jessica made her own choices. With your help. Your advice. Your dick. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. Jessica and I are friends. If that friendship has evolved. I hung up and threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, one more thing I couldn't afford to replace. The next 3 days were a blur. Jessica had the girls, and her lawyer had advised her not to let me see them until I'd calmed down and accepted the situation. I called every divorce attorney in Boston, only to find that the good ones were either too expensive or conflicted out. Jessica had done consultations with half of them, preventing them from representing me. I finally found Larry Hutchinson, a semi-retired lawyer who worked out of a strip mall office that smelled like cigarettes and disappointment. "She's playing hardball," he said, reviewing the papers. "Harvard Law, big firm job, she knows the game. Can you help?" "I can try. But Bobby, she's asking for things that seem reasonable on paper. Joint custody, no alimony, standard child support. Judges eat that up. She's taking my daughters. How is that reasonable? She's the primary caregiver, according to these affidavits." He showed me statements from Prudence, from daycare workers, even from pediatricians, all painting a picture of Jessica as the involved parent while I was absent working. I was working to pay for her school. I know. But that's not how it reads. Look, we can fight this. But it'll cost money you don't have, and she can outspend you 10-1. So what do I do? You could try mediation.